Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That was the magic of Tiger to me. Why did my mom care about when Tiger was playing? Because you might see something with every shot that you've never seen before. And that was, to me, the magnetic quality. And those guys have a little bit of that, but there aren't a ton of them. So to have those guys in the mix on the big weeks is great for the game.
The Smiley Show, only on
Welcome to our third and final hour, live right here on this Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie, right side. I am Ben Stevens. A couple final thoughts on the ending of the 2025 NFL Draft and what it means moving forward. The NFL calendar quiets down ever so slightly. Scheduled release date coming in just about 2.5 weeks. But DRS, the draft cycle, the draft process, and the actual draft itself now is done. A little bit quieter as we approach the later portions of spring and early summer, where things continue to be at a peak. Major League Baseball, about a month already gone in this regular season, in the long marathon that is 162, and a doubleheader of NBA playoff games on this Monday night. Some more action on the ice in the Stanley Cup postseason as well. All of that coming your way here in this third and final hour.
It's a good time, and, cherish these times where we just had the NFL draft this weekend, as Ben pointed out, NBA action in the playoffs, as well as the NHL in round number one. So many games each and every night, because every day that moves forward, teams are going to be getting knocked out of the playoffs with limited games in both the NBA and also the NHL. And then Major League Baseball certainly has been underway, been really enjoying it. Now we finally start to look to the month here of May, warmer temperatures around Major League Baseball, and also all those statistics that we love to look at, xFIP, ISO, weighted on base percentage. You should have enough in your tank now to make those educated decisions, which I had a lot of fun this weekend doing. So May is almost here, and that's where the sweet spot opens in Major League Baseball.
Talk dirty to me, DRS, when you're throwing out xFIP like that. Well, we're really... Oh, I didn't realize what you were doing. That's good. Good song, though. Good song. At DRS, as we get started here in this third and final hour, one final question about Shedeur Sanders. We have given you our thoughts. The NFL, of course, gave you their thoughts on where he actually slots in to the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, with some retrospective, if you will, we look back on where Shedeur Sanders was selected and where you all think he should have gone in the NFL Draft. That was the question in Fade the Public. When should Shedeur Sanders have been drafted? At SportsGrid on Twitter, that was the question. Round 1, rounds 2 or 3, rounds 4 through 7. Those were your three options. And basically, DRS, it's a pretty even split between round 2 and 3, and then that third option, rounds 4 through 7. Rounds 4 through 7 has actually taken the ever so slight lead, but about 44% now on rounds 2 or 3, about 46% on rounds 4 through 7.
Yeah, well, here's the interesting part, too. It's all when you're asking the question, like, hey, should Minnesota be up 3-1 with the Lakers? Like, yeah, they should be up 3-1. Why? Because they're up 3-1. If we ask this same question, where should Shedeur Sanders be drafted on Thursday before the draft started, it probably would be the complete opposite because you're going with the odds. The odds said he should have been a first-round draft pick, which is the way I voted. Now, granted, I'm not in the film room. I didn't watch a ton of Shedeur Sanders, but I'm just going by what people have watched him all season long with the mock drafts that had it. Nobody had him going 4th through 7th. So 46% right now voting on that are liars at this point because they understand where he got drafted, and that's where I'm going to vote. Oh, I never thought he was going to be a top 3 pick or a top 5 pick or a top 3-round pick. Yes, you did. The odds makers were telling you that, and so was everybody else, which is the shock of the draft that he went into the 5th round. So this poll would be completely obsolete and backwards if we asked this same question on Thursday to the results we're getting right now.
For sure.
Round 1, 9%. Stop it, people. Stop. Come on.
Yeah, I completely agree, DRS. You can be revisionist as much as you would like. I thought the Shedeur Sanders narrative throughout the weekend was absolutely insane. It was a media narrative where we saw what often becomes of something so online. And I'll just say this, Shedeur Sanders and his father welcome and thrive on the attention. When that is what you do, this is the negative of it. This is the downside of it. You are thrust into the spotlight and you need to take your serving of humble pie. But we had seen the narrative explode so much. Shedeur Sanders, conspiracy theories. Here is why the National Football League is passing on this guy time and again. To almost swing back the other way. For people to tell us he couldn't even start in the UFL is basically where it ended at the end of Friday night. It was ridiculous. Maybe the narrative on Shedeur Sanders was a little bit too high that he could be a round 1 talent. Here's where I stand on it, DRS. Was I overly surprised he was not a first-round pick? Yes. Was I shocked? Not necessarily, because throughout most of the draft process, the spot that seemed most likely was still the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21st overall for a quarterback class that I always thought at most had 2 QBs going in round number 1. It just wasn't the second quarterback I expected on Thursday night. It was Jackson Dart instead of Shedeur Sanders. Am I stunned that it took him until the 5th round to get selected? Absolutely so. But the media narrative spun so far either which way that it was ridiculous. And when you have a media narrative like that, you basically open up the prospect for the public, as we are seeing here, to hate on that individual, to hate on his talent, to hate on his character. Last week at this time, he was minus 280 to be a first-round pick. If we put out this Fade the Public poll last week, and you can say that as revisionist history in its own place, it would have been 97% round 1. So yeah, the narrative around Shedeur Sanders is a little bit insane. The reality is now this. He was a 5th-round pick by the Cleveland Browns. His expectations to start his NFL career are so much more humble than we probably all anticipated at this stage a week ago. He is not going in expected to be the face of the franchise. He will not enter that Browns organization expecting to be a starter at any point in 2025. Might he? That's a different question. But the expectations, Donnie, are to try to earn a job for this Cleveland franchise as a quarterback, whether that be a reserve or a 3rd stringer or heck, even a practice squad member. That is the task for Shedeur Sanders. We will see what his resolve and resilience is about to be as he embarks on his NFL future.
And 99% of the teams, when you show up to camp, will tell you, now it doesn't matter where you were drafted at. Now it's about competing on the field, knowing that the general manager will remind the coach where that player was drafted at and how they should play over said player who might be drafted behind. But also understand this. Dylan Gabriel was drafted in the 3rd round. Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. It's interesting how that is going to play out when the Browns told themselves the better quarterback is Gabriel, but now Shedeur is a talent. He's sitting out here. Do they get equal playing field? And again, I already tweeted out here on X. I do think Shedeur Sanders gets at least 1 game played next year because I don't think the Browns are going to be that great. And maybe you want to see what both of these quarterbacks have. But for that quarterback room to be shaping up where it could be a little bit toxic is very interesting to me. But again, getting back to the point and the premise of fading the public, where will he be drafted? 4 rounds, 4 through 7? Absolutely incorrect at that point here. There's a reason why he fell, which we may never get that exact answer from the teams that passed on him, because why would they spill the beans now if they were never going to take him? Those stories probably won't come out like they need to, but he was expected through the odds makers, particularly the FanDuel Sportsbook, and all of the people that analyze the draft. Mock 1 in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round? They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
There were people, DRS, saying that the book has not been closed on the G-men taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall, and then followed that up on Saturday morning by saying, the Giants, what are you guys kidding me? They were never going to take Shedeur Sanders number 3 overall. Shut them. It's just like, it's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation. It angers me because it's like we don't even like sports anymore. We just like the narrative around sports. We like the narrative around watching a sport more than we enjoy even watching the sport in the first place anymore. Also, in terms of the prank call thing, Jax Ulbrich deserves a little bit of hate, but he apologized. It was a dumb kid doing an ultra dumb thing. That's it. That's done. We don't need to do these grandstanding acts there either. Disappointing weekend around the NFL draft, if you ask me. Let's preview some Major League Baseball games on a Monday. To the mind of Donnie Rightside up next.
Career season for Elly De La Cruz. It happened last year. One of the most popular players in baseball as well. And a lot of guys are stealing bases again, and some of them seem like they may be able to steal more bases than Elly De La Cruz on the Cincinnati Reds. So I will ask you this question, Tom. Buy or sell? De La Cruz will lead the league in steals this season.
Sell. I sell on this. I'm not going to say it's already because he's just a handful behind, but there's another Cruz that could easily lead the league in steals, and that's O'Neal Cruz. But like you said, there are a lot of players stealing. Pete Crow Armstrong, I think, is always a viable option. Victor Scott, we know it can be very good. I think that's where we'll see things end up. The fact that he did so last year and he was the odds-on favorite to lead the league in steals this year, I just don't see it repeating. And frankly, there's going to be a point where maybe the Reds need to protect him. Like, they need him to be healthy. You don't want him potentially risk himself on any further injury if they're going to make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll catch fire. I'm going to buy this. And the Reds went for about a week and a half without basically scoring a run. I do think as the weather heats up, he will get on base more. It has been, as I've said, a wintry April in a lot of different locations. And I can't quite figure out why the Reds, especially at home, are not hitting like they have in the past. And I'm just going to put it down as weather and nothing else. So I'm going to say De La Cruz at the end of the year does it. The competition, and Tom brought up a great point. O'Neal Cruz certainly off to a great start too, but I'm going to end up buying this, and I think 85 steals again for Elly De La Cruz, somewhere along those lines. Yeah, why not?
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
An 8-game slate around Major League Baseball on this Monday, following another weekend in the Bigs, DRS, that saw a lot. Best team in the American League right now, the Detroit Tigers. Best team in the National League, the New York Mets. Best team in the National League West, the San Francisco Giants. The Padres swept at home in lovely San Diego by the Tampa Bay Rays over a 3-game set this week in Southern California. A lot to get you caught up on around the Bigs, a lot to look at entering a new week on this Monday. Let's start in a divisional duel in Baltimore between the Yankees and the Orioles. The Yankees making a change, by the way, in the back end of their bullpen. Devin Williams, who has been the closer now in his opening year in the Bronx, kind of demoted from that role, it's been a little bit tumultuous. You know, it's been incredibly tumultuous. The Baltimore Orioles season, DRS, 10-17 in the cellar. Worst record in the AL West, second worst record in the American League, only better than the Chicago White Sox. A game today against the Yankees where New York with Will Warren on the bump, an ever so slight favorite. What are we expecting today on this Monday inside Camden Yards?
They probably should be the slight favorite, even though you take a look at Will Warren, who I don't love as a pitcher, and you say, well, hey, Sugano should be able to, flare things up. Actually, Sugano was the worst pitcher on the card today through 16 pitchers with his xFIP number at 4.79, which is not over 5, which you love, and that's a great fade point. But if we're just looking at the way he gets down for his business, 28 innings pitched, Ben, a 3.54 ERA, which is good, but then you take a look at the expected ERA, almost double that at 6.11. His FIP number, 5.84, but a slightly lower xFIP of 4.79. You take a look at the lineup today for the New York Yankees, who, again, top 3 batters in the lineup that we anticipate. Grisham, Judge, and Rice, lefty, righty, lefty, going up against Sugano, and against right-handed pitching, a 481 ISO, a 208, and a 327. Maybe that's where the damage comes from. But if we are looking for the Baltimore batters, they've had some success this year against right-handed pitchers. Will Warren last year struggled with both lefty and righty batters. This year, having a little bit better year. If you take a look at his xFIP number, it's 3.69, much lower than his ERA at 4.79. So getting a little bit unlucky with the ERA. Maybe they bounce back tonight. The lineup looks better for Baltimore, but I do think you still have the pitching advantage with the Yankees and the better overall team. I'll take the Yankees at a slight favorite price here at Camden Yards. By the way, 70-degree temperatures, wind blowing out to left. We do like to see that.
Yeah. The O's were blanked yesterday by Detroit 7-zip. Baltimore swept this weekend, I am pretty sure, in Detroit. The Orioles are struggling 10-17 DRS, as we have alluded to. 5-6 at home. Of course, those East Coast teams, or at least along the Eastern Seaboard, playing most of their opening games away from their home ballpark. 16 games for Baltimore on the road, 11 at home. The Yankees rained out in the Bronx on Saturday, played a doubleheader yesterday against the Blue Jays. They won both to win the weekend. We mentioned the Tigers. Detroit, best record right now in the AL. 18-10. The Tigers on the road to start off this week against the Astros today. In DRS, the Astros avoided a sweep yesterday against the Kansas City Royals. The Royals still a game below 500, but getting a couple of big wins against the Stros this weekend. Houston, an ever so slight favorite on the money line. Ronel Blanco gets the start, -110 now for the Stros. We have seen a slight line flip. Jack Flaherty the start for Detroit, -106. Total 8 today in H-Town. What do you like?
Yeah, Flaherty's been fantastic this season. Again, yet Scooble yesterday was absolutely pitching a gem, and outside those first 2 starts of the season for him, he's been just like his Cy Young self. You take a look at Flaherty, 27 1/3 innings pitched this year. How about an ERA, Ben? 2.63 and an xFIP 3.09. Should be able to factor in. Now, Ronel Blanco last year was a very good pitcher. This year is struggling with lefties. And by the way, if you take a look at his numbers, through 23 1/3 innings pitched this year, a 5 ERA and a 4.73 xFIP number. So the better pitcher resides for the Tigers today at that price. If you're looking for some batter props to start, Kerry Carpenter, 64 at bats as a left-handed batter against right-handed pitching this year, a 200 ISO and a weighted on-base percentage of 369. And then Riley Green, another lefty, having some good results here. And then Spencer Torkelson having a great season with a 269 ISO against right-handed pitching. For me, again, I take a look at the road team here, whether it's a slight favorite or not. Let's call it a pick 'em. I like Detroit. Better pitcher on the mound and a team that should be able to handle their business.
And the Tigers, the hottest team right now in the American League. They have won 4 straight, 8 of their last 10. Again, Detroit, the best record in the AL right now at 18-10. Let's not forget, DRS, they were swept in their opening series of this MLB season by the LA Dodgers, 18-7 in their last 25. Houston, a game above 500 at 14-13, avoiding the sweep yesterday in Kauffman against the Kansas City Royals. There is no team worse right now in MLB than the Colorado Rockies. 4-23. They are 2.5 games worse, DRS, than even the Chicago White Sox, who are 7-21. The Rocks are 4-23. They're at home today against the Braves, who have won 7 of their last 9 and nearly swept the Diamondbacks this weekend. Arizona did rally to avoid the sweep yesterday in the third game of that weekend set. But Atlanta, minus 176 favorite today inside Coors Field. It's a Coors Field total in double digits at 10.5. What's the play between the Braves and the Rockies?
Yeah, yesterday for the Colorado Rockies, we had 80-degree temperatures and a double-digit wind blowing out to center field. Cooler temperatures in the Rockies today, 60 degrees or so with the wind blowing in from center field at about 8 to 10 miles per hour. So we'll see if that catches up to that 10.5 because you can still score a lot of runs even if the weather conditions aren't all that great in Colorado. You take a look at Bryce Elder on the season. Hasn't been that great. 21 innings pitched here, a 5.57 ERA and a 4.51 xFIP number. You take a look at the lineup, though, very underwhelming for the Colorado Rockies. Now, we take a look at the Atlanta Braves. They've woken up at the plate. You take a look at Alex Verdugo in the leadoff spot. Doesn't really factor in that much against right-handed pitching. But after that, plus numbers on Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, Murphy, Albies, and Eli White going up against Feltner. And if you take a look at Feltner's season, 25 2/3 innings pitched, a decent ERA of 3.86, a slightly higher xFIP of 4.28. Those numbers do make sense. And also keep in mind, Feltner's got hammered a bit by left-handed bats in this lineup. And if you're looking for one right in the middle of that lineup, it's probably going to be Matt Olson for a legitimate RBI chance there out in Colorado. But it's hard at any price to back the Rockies home or away.
The Rockies swept by my Cincinnati Reds this weekend. The Reds winning all 3. Cincy playing a lot better. 15-13. Colorado is atrocious. Again, the Braves have won 7 of their last 9, but still 12-15. Some NBA playoff previews next.
You cannot shoot 2 of 17 from 3 and think you're beating Steph and Jimmy Buckets, a.k.a. Playoff Jimmy, Playoff him, Himmy, whatever you want to call him. You can't shoot that bad and compete in the playoffs versus the Warriors. SGA wasn't even that good. You want to talk about non-competitive series? People want to talk about getting rid of play-in. Maybe we need to get rid of the 8 seed because this 8 seed got their ass kicked.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
We know your other brother Marv did the Knicks forever, but you've done just about every team in the league. You did Ames. You did Dr. J Dames.
But after 45 years in this crazy business, people kept telling me, you got to write a book. So I did, and here it is.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid, a doubleheader of NBA playoff action on this Monday night. 2 Game 4s, so that all 8 of our opening round playoff series will have seen their 4th game. The first one, DRS, is maybe the most important series through the entirety of the opening round of this NBA postseason in your eyes. Game number 4 tonight in San Francisco between the Golden State Warriors and the 2 seed, the Houston Rockets. The regular season referendum from the mind of DRS. Golden State with a victory on Saturday, 104-93. The Dubs have opened up a 2-1 series lead. They were a 3-point home favorite on Saturday. Even without Jimmy Butler, they win that game behind 36 points from Steph Curry. Tonight, DRS, a similar number. 3.5 points in favor of the Dubs. A total now at 203 on its way up because DRS, as the Warriors said yesterday, there is a, quote, belief that Jimmy Butler is set to return for game number 4 tonight.
Yeah, and here's the problem. I thought the Houston Rockets would be able to win this series before game number 1. Wildly disappointed in the Rockets I was after game number 1. Game number 2, hey, look at that. Riding the ship, get a good performance at a superstar player. All right, we're in the series. Let's go back to Golden State. And you get the bonus of Jimmy Butler not being available in game number 3. Now's your chance, Houston. Win game number 3. Roll the dice in game number 4, but you head back to Houston, worst case scenario, 2-2 with home court advantage, and away you go. Jimmy Butler doesn't play, you get beat in that game, and now my morale for the Houston Rockets winning this series is at an all-time low. So I look at that price point today of 3.5, and I say to myself, there's no way, shape, or form I want the Houston Rockets. Because if Jimmy Butler does come back to play, when you couldn't beat him with Jimmy Butler, what gives me the advantage of saying now's the time to back the Houston Rockets? I don't want to be out on the Rockets, but it feels like I should be, Ben.
Yeah, DRS, it really does feel like that. And again, we can question what that means, and we will look at the series odds in just a moment for the NBA regular season. That the 2 seed with home floor advantage, despite the 7 seed having that playoff pedigree, has a guy like Jimmy Butler added to the fold. They make their way through the play-in tournament. They were the series outright favorites, and now the favorites for sure to win this opening round set and maybe do so rather comfortably in 5 games. Of course, a 2-1 series lead entering game 4 tonight. 3.5 point favorite. DRS, in terms of the total, now back to 203. We have seen all 3 games so far work their way under 203 points at most. And as we have seen for the Rockets, Houston has only seen the century mark once. It was in the game 2 win last week. DRS, it's also really interesting because maybe you're not believing in the Houston Rockets, and I don't really fault you in thinking so. Can the Rockets win outright tonight? Perhaps. But if Houston is going to do so, one guy has to go over his points prop, and that's Jalen Green. 17.5 points is the prop tonight for the young Houston star. But I say star almost cautiously because in game number 1, 7 points. Called him out entering game number 2. Green himself admitting he had some playoff nerves entering his first career playoff game. How does he respond? Sensationally. 38 points. 8 made triples in game number 2. The lone game the Rockets have won so far in this set. How does he respond in his first road playoff game? Awfully. 9 points on Saturday against Golden State. If Houston is going to win, if Houston is going to make something of this opening round series, Jalen Green must go over 17.5 points.
Yeah, he really has to. And also, I do like the fact that we have these extended series, right? And the teams start to hate each other. Draymond Green, Jalen Green going after it here. And all this guy does is talk. That's why he has left in his game. So I look for maybe one of those performances out of Jalen Green that goes, I'm better than this. And there's no way I'm going to let Draymond Green show me up here again in his own building. I got to have a good performance. And a good performance doesn't mean 36 points. You're just asking for 20 points in a road game with a total of around 20. That's what should happen. Like if Jalen Green goes for 11 points, they're not winning this basketball game. So you know me, Ben. I love correlated plays that say, tell me a story where the Rockets don't win this game but keep it close and Jalen Green scores 10 points. Or tell me a better story that the Rockets win this game and Jalen Green scores 14 points. It's not happening. He needs a big night tonight. But the hype I had for the Rockets and the anger towards the odds market, as I look at it now, it's like, hey, maybe the odds market was right. But if the Rockets can win this game, I'll be buying back in. But so demoralizing was that Game 3 loss. It really was.
We'll talk more about DRS's referendum for the Rockets up next on the Early Line.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That was the magic of Tiger to me. Why did my mom care about when Tiger was playing? Because you might see something with every shot that you've never seen before. And that was, to me, the magnetic quality. And those guys have a little bit of that, but there aren't a ton of them. So to have those guys in the mix on the big weeks is great for the game.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Getting you set for a doubleheader of NBA playoff action on this Monday night. We start with the nightcap and the most intriguing and compelling of our two NBA playoff games. The Rockets trying to even up a series at 2-game apiece. Golden State, the home team tonight inside the Chase Center, looking to take that commanding 3-1 series advantage. The Dubs a 3.5-point home favorite. Total stands at 203. Again, DRS, Golden State winning on Saturday without Jimmy Butler by 11, 104-93, covering as a 3-point home favorite, expecting to have Jimmy Butler back tonight. He has a points prop listed. The Warriors have, quote, belief that Jimmy Butler will return for game number 4 after the hard fall early in game number 2. 19.5, that points prop for Butler entering game number 4 right now.
It's funny because, we weren't sure he's going to come back. They're saying he's coming back, which always leaves you up in the air like, well, if you do come back to an NBA game, it's not like, hey, Jimmy, give me 10, 15 minutes here, can you? No, he's going to be in the starting lineup, and you expect him to be effective. So knowing Jimmy Butler when he's healthy and playing full minutes, which means 30-plus, that 19.5 probably feels like a steal. Like, we understand the playoffs are run through your superstars, and Jimmy Butler was doing that to start the playoffs before he got injured. I just want to know the pain threshold that he has, and it doesn't sound like it's an injury like, let's just say he can re-aggravate an ankle or re-aggravate a hamstring injury. It's probably just, okay, I might land on the hip, I'll have extra padding, but I'm fully functional at this point, and I just needed an extra day or two to get my leg back into shape. So I look at this and say it's a normal stay-away play for me if I want to bet any Jimmy Butler props, but then you see the 19.5 and go, Donnie, he's going to play 31 minutes tonight? He's going to get 20 points if he plays the 31 minutes tonight.
Of course, DRS, he did score 25 in the opening game of this series. In Houston, the only full game that he has played. We mentioned we would look at where the odds stand entering game number 4. The Rockets referendum for the sanctity of the regular season. As Donnie Right Side sees it, Golden State minus 360 to win this series outright. The most likely amount of games and the most likely amount of time for Golden State to win this series is in 6 at plus 210. But Golden State doing so, DRS, even in a gentleman's sweep in H-Town, is plus 220, only 10 cents behind. We questioned, right, what Game 2's importance would be late last week. If the Rockets lost both of their games, having home court advantage as the 2 seed, you were done watching the regular season in its entirety. If Houston loses tonight, as expected, as a slight road underdog in San Francisco, to fall in that the 3-1 series hole, how are you going to feel about the Rockets, the referendum, and the regular season?
Yeah, it's going to be rough at this point. But again, we talk about the zigzag theory, which bounces back, and you have two good basketball teams. It's the playoffs, and they understand. Like, even though they're a young team in the playoffs, they're still the 2 seed. They won a lot of games in the regular season. You know you can't lose this game. You go down 3-1, the series is effectively over. Understand Golden State understands that concept of winning multiple championships. Hey, when you have a team down, make sure you continue to keep them down and don't give them hope. We'll see the way it plays out, but I'm just hoping from a fan perspective, for me and my sanity, that Houston can wake up, win this basketball game, go home, and say, okay, best of 3. We're in the series now. We had 2 games we didn't play so well, 2 games we played extremely well. Now let's use this home court advantage to our advantage and try to get a lead in here. But that's going to come today. And also, you're looking at the concept of 61% of the bets coming in here on Golden State, 54% of the money coming in on Golden State. It's not as crazy as I thought it would be, because usually after game number 3, no Jimmy Butler, now Jimmy's back. It's only 3.5. If they win the game, they'll probably cover the 3.5. That's not a ton of support publicly, at least with the FanDuel Sportsbook, that I thought it would be. So me looking at that price point of the Houston Rockets at 3.5, just reading the lines, it looks like it's a Houston Rockets line tonight, to be honest.
It kind of is, DRS. And again, Golden State a minus 360 favorite. It feels as though, with the Warriors up 2-1 and a 3.5 point favorite tonight, that this should be where the Warriors shine, right? That playoff pedigree was the whole reason they were that series outright favorite entering, and of course playing some really good basketball after the acquisition of Jimmy Butler in early February, despite not having home floor advantage. But what is really interesting when you kind of examine those series odds further, DRS, you would expect for a Golden State team that is likely to win this set in 6 games, plus 210. For a Golden State team that could win this in 5, plus 220. Maybe that series spread would now be 2.5 games. It's not. It's only a game and a half in favor of Golden State and minus 170 in terms of the juice you would have to pay to back the Dubs in that number. Again, for me, it's rather simple. If you think Houston wins outright tonight, if you think the Rockets even make this game close at all, single digits, 5 points or fewer, it's Jalen Green over 17.5. Without that, the Rockets really have little chance.
Exactly. Take a look at maybe some 3-point props where you know Steph's going to come to play. It's his home building. He'll get it cranking. 4.5 is his 3-point number, which means 5 to cash it in. But I'm looking at Jimmy Butler. This is one of those also where we'll get information throughout the day. You'll be able to watch the pregame warm-ups and make a decision because you understand, like, once you hear no restrictions then on Jimmy Butler, he's cashing that 20 points tonight. I just don't know if I can bet that early in the morning, understanding what we have, because when the game starts, if he's a little bit hobbled at that point, but gutting it out, you'll know right away. Maybe it's more of an in-game thing, but I just need to see the pregame. Jimmy Butler's moving around good. Looks like he's going to be fine. Talked to him earlier. No restrictions. Then I love him to get 20-plus points tonight.
Yeah, DRS, it could be a discount if he is even close to 100%, especially in a playoff atmosphere. 1 full game so far in a Golden State uniform in the playoffs, 25 points in Game 1 against Houston. We are expecting a sweep tonight in South Beach between the Heat and the Cavaliers. Cleveland, an 8.5-point road favorite for what could be our 4th and final game in this opening round set. Total at 211.5 now, DRS. Will the Heat have any resolve maybe to even make this game competitive and potentially stave off elimination?
Yeah, understand this. If you're betting this game, the Heat are at home, and it's been that graphic here at 9. It currently sits at the FanDuel Sportsbook at 8.5. You just need to bet the Miami Heat in the first quarter and or the first half. Because understand this, if the Heat are down double digits at the break, they're not fighting back and clawing to a victory to get us back to Cleveland. It's just a human element where they know in the Heat locker room they are not winning this series. But you can still say as a coach with their expulsion and sit in front of that team before you take your home court, hey, guys, let's give it all we got and see what happens here, and we'll take it one game at a time, which is what he's supposed to say. But if you don't respond to that in the first half, you're not responding in the second, and it will be a foregone conclusion that they'll probably get slapped by double digits. So if I'm betting this game, which I won't from a Heat perspective, the only angle I would play is taking the Heat early to say, hey, you never know, and then you find out that you do know, and the series is over. I don't want to wait around for that.
Yeah, DRS, it's a good point, right? Miami was really in each of the opening two games in Cleveland, despite giving up more than 120 points and not even covering in game number one, losing by 21. But they were down by only a single possession or around 6 points with less than a minute in that third quarter before Cleveland pulled away in the fourth and final in the opening game of this series. It was really competitive, back and forth for most of game number two before Cleveland ended up winning by 9. The Cavaliers were only a 5.5-point favorite over the weekend against the Heat before they won by nearly 40 in the first game in Miami. I'm expecting Cleveland to sweep tonight. Now, is Cleveland going to cover as an 8.5-point favorite? That's a different story. DRS, you've always said, if there is a resolve for a team that is looking likely to be swept, it's in game 3. Miami showed us nothing. Will they show us something here in game 4? A little bit skeptical. If it is close, keep an eye on Donovan Mitchell and his points prop. He had 30 points in each of the opening two games of this series when it was rather competitive through at least 3.5 quarters. Did not need to score a ton in the nearly 40-point rout over the weekend.
Here's what I need to know. Any general managers in South Florida tonight that own a club, did Tyler Hero already make reservations for a post-game celebration? That's how you'll know. Because the one thing we do know, win or lose, Tyler Hero's going out on the town in Miami tonight. I just need to know if those reservations are in for that post-season celebration tonight.
Why is it just Tyler Hero? Bam Adebayo doesn't go out. Davion Mitchell
do you remember the pictures
doesn't like to be
before
a man
he caught
about
so much heat? He's been known to party on big losses that the Heat have taken, like without a care in the world.
You cannot shoot 2 of 17 from 3 and think you're beating Steph and Jimmy Buckets, a.k.a. Playoff Jimmy, Playoff him, Hemi, whatever you want to call him. You can't shoot that bad and compete in the playoffs versus the Warriors. SGA wasn't even that good. You want to talk about non-competitive series? People want to talk about getting rid of play-in. Maybe we need to get rid of the 8 seed because this 8 seed got their ass kicked.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball today. Only on SportsGrid.
We know your other brother Marv did the Knicks forever, but you've done just about every team in the league. You did Ames. You did Dr. J Dames.
But after 45 years in this crazy business, people kept telling me, you got to write a book. So I did, and here it is.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The prop perspective on this Monday from the Jack of all trades to start off a new week. It is TV Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid, live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line. Tom, as always, we appreciate the time. Hope the weekend was great. Excited to break down some games with you on this Monday as well.
Weekend was good. We had a really great show yesterday for pro baseball today. My personal results for that show were a little bit mixed just because apparently some players don't know how to hit the ball anymore. But point notwithstanding, I'm ready to get into today. We are approaching, I'm going to say, the best part of games for the playoffs, especially that second round, like the teams that truly deserve to be there. Let's get to it.
Let's start off in the NBA playoffs. Tom and I will talk a little Stanley Cup playoff action before our 3 hours ends out. And, of course, when you have the two wonderful hosts of pro baseball today, a couple of plays around MLB on this 8-game Monday slate. We start with our first of two tonight, Vecchio, in the NBA playoffs. Is it over tonight in South Beach? The Heat host the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, an 8.5-point favorite. Expected to sweep Miami tonight in only 4 games. Our total now, Vecchio, stands at 211.5. Again, Cleveland up 3-0. Expected to sweep Miami tonight. But how competitive are we expecting potentially this 4th and final game to be?
I would expect a team coached by Erik Spoelstra to have some type of effort, especially after what we saw from them in the last game. Really wasn't good overall. We saw at some point, I saw the live spread jump up to 18 some odd points, whatever it is. I expect more from a Spoelstra-led team. Are they still going to lose? Yes. The question that you guys were asking in the previous segment is, are they going to cover? That's a bit of a different story. So, as I always say, there's a number that I'll be looking for in game, and I think that number is 5. Right? 8.5, 9 points. I'm not sure if they cover that. Obviously, Cleveland is the far superior team in this matchup. I want an in-game number of 5 because that's what I think they can cover. They get it done. Miami shows some amount of resilience, but ultimately, Cleveland is so much better than them.
Yeah, Cleveland should be able to wind this one up here. 4-game, not even a gentleman's sweep. Just wipe them right out and get to round number 2 as we await the Celtics and also the Cleveland Cavaliers in those Eastern Conference Finals is the expectation. Late night game tonight, Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. An embarrassing performance for me, at least, for the Houston Rockets in game number 3. They look to bounce back. FanDuel opened this line, Tom, 4.5. It's now down to 3.5 at FanDuel, and a total that opened up at 201.5 now sits at 203, bouncing back and forth. Expectations tonight with Jimmy Butler possible playing again for the Warriors. What is it tonight between the Rockets and the Warriors for you?
Yeah, Jimmy Butler playing, not playing, whatever it might be. I think we'd all agree that even if he does play, he's not going to be at 100%. And, whether he's out there for a bit of a decoy role, does someone else step up and do the scoring? As we kind of saw the other game, obviously, Steph's going to do his thing. But I expect this to be largely what we have seen over the first 3 games, where it's going to be a slower pace, physical, lower scoring. And ultimately, that kind of leads me to Alperen Şengün under 18.5 points. He came out on fire on game 1, but I'm going to say that was the clear outlier when he shot 61% from the field. And that has since dropped to 40 and 38% from the field, as you'd expect when he's going up against Draymond Green. And again, when we're seeing games barely getting to 200 points, I don't expect too many players to be pushing past 20, 25 points. Obviously, Curry is the exception in that. And we've seen big games from Green, Van Vliet, Thompson doing their thing. So I think it has to be a well-rounded effort from the Rockets if we're going to keep this close. I just don't expect Alperen Şengün to be pushing past 20 points tonight.
26 in game number 1, Vecchio, was really the only Rockets starter who scored more than 11 in that matchup. To your point, all 3 games between the Dubs and the Rockets have stayed under. 203 is our total tonight. That's also the maximum points scored combined in a game so far in this opening round series. Şengün's points prop ever so slightly higher than that of Jalen Green at 17.5. My thought is that if Houston even makes this game remotely competitive tonight, Green has to go over that number as he did in game number 2 with 38 points, but has only scored in single digits in the other 2. We also saw there for our opening game tonight, DeAndre Hunter under 12.5 points for Cleveland. Vecchio, what is it about how we expect game 4 to play out tonight in South Beach that leads you to that under?
Yeah, forgot to touch on this one on the first game, but, a lot of people are going to be seeing the 21 points that he scored in the most recent game. Darius Garland did not play in that game. We have to remember that, right? He's listed as questionable for tonight, Garland, that is. In the first 2 games of the series, Hunter scored 0 and 12 points. And obviously, the 21 is great, but he did that when his role was expanded. So that is the outlier game, as we see with Şengün in game 1 when he shot 61%. So if Garland is out tonight, yes, there's a chance that Hunter may go over, but I'm expecting the game to go under overall. I just don't expect that role for DeAndre Hunter to be there. I'm anticipating Garland does play after a couple days of rest.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Do expect some explosions tonight in the NBA. Hopefully, we cash in some tickets. Major League Baseball on the card tonight. You take a look at the Twins heading over to take on the Guardians. Any action in this game for you tonight, Tom?
Yeah, let's keep it really simple, and that's the Guardians' money line. Coming off a couple losses, I think they're a good team. I think they're in a spot to bounce back. I'm not afraid of the Twins. I'm not afraid of Bailey Ober. He comes in with a 5.04 ERA, and Donnie, as we know, we always like to use that in comparison to the xFIP. His xFIP is at 418, and 418 is like a pretty average number, like average to bad. We have beautiful weather out in Cleveland today, a little bit of wind. He has a 46% fly ball rate. He's allowing 1.80 home runs per nine. When we're getting a good team with the Guardians at minus 120 or minus 122, I think that's great. We do have to note, as we touched on the show yesterday, Clase, not the closer anymore. So there is a difference between taking the Guardians as they were and expecting, oh, Clase is going to come in, shut everyone down, no one's going to touch the ball. That role has changed, so their bullpen is factually weaker, but I still like the Guardians to get the offense going against Bailey Ober. 20% striker rate. I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah.
We love those prop plays and the looks for this Monday, Tom. Quickly, big picture around the NBA. The Thunder have swept. They're the 1 seed out west. The Cavs seem likely to sweep tonight, the 1 seed out east. We're not so sure any of our Eastern Conference opening round playoff series will see more than 5 games. As we update those NBA championship odds nearing the end of round 1, although we could see some competitive series elsewhere, is there a spot where you now think there might be some better value on the board?
For the East, probably not. I think that's really tough. I mean, the Nuggets are still pretty glaring considering where they sit in their series. Obviously, even if they win this series, they're going to be in a matchup going up against the Thunder. But, a part of me, I think there's a smidge of value on the Knicks if they're able to get past or at least keep things competitive with the Celtics. You'll have a good price, maybe to hedge out or whatever it might be.
DRS, we send you off to the money line. Vecchio and I hit the ice. Up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
That was the magic of Tiger to me. Why did my mom care about when Tiger was playing? Because you might see something with every shot that you've never seen before. And that was, to me, the magnetic quality. And those guys have a little bit of that, but there aren't a ton of them. So to have those guys in the mix on the big weeks, it's great for the game.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Nearing the end, perhaps, of most of our series in the NBA playoffs to open up the postseason. Maybe the case in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but of course, It's been very exciting on the ice. Tom Vecchio here to round out our show together for 3 hours on this Monday up until 11 a.m. Eastern. Final segment, Vecchio, but of course we focus on the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Hurricanes up 3-1 over the New Jersey Devils. And Carolina continues to have the shortest price in comparison to the rest of our Stanley Cup playoff contenders. 4-1 price on the Canes, plus 650 on the Panthers as those reigning Stanley Cup champs. The Caps have a 3-1 series lead. The Jets, who had one of the shortest prices entering the postseason, Vecchio, and early on in the opening round, now in a tussle. 2-2 series tie against the St. Louis Blues. How do you make sense of where the Stanley Cup odds stand at this moment?
Well, someone that has a Jets ticket at 20-1, which I bet on November 12th, I am heartbroken by the fact that we are seeing the exact same thing from them as we've seen in previous postseasons, where Connor Hellebuck is just not performing, and it's partly his fault, it's partly in the defense in front of him, their fault. It's just all over the place. The Blues have been on fire, as we know, like a 13-game win streak. Great second half of the season for them. At this point, it's really shaping up where the Avs look so dangerous. They really do. And at the price that we're getting them at, I think they are in a good spot because when it comes down to it, I think the Avs are still better than the Blues. That's what it really comes down to. And if the Avs take on the Blues in the second round, I think the Avs will be, at that point, the favorite, the clear favorite that is, not just this jumbled mix in the West, to win the West. And that puts them in a really good spot because I have no faith in Edmonton, despite the fact that they've won 2 games in a row. Yeah. They are not winning in a conducive fashion to playoff hockey. Winning games 4-3, 5-3 is not what we should be seeing. So the Avs just look so good right now.
A crazy game last night for Edmonton over the Kings. They were trailing. They scored the game-tying goal in regulation with fewer than 30 seconds remaining. Leon Draisaitl scoring early in OT to give the Oilers the win. Vecchio, all 4 of our opening round sets from the Western Conference perspective tied at 2 games apiece right now. A lot that we love so far in the Stanley Cup postseason, including our 5th game tonight in Dallas between the Stars and the Avalanche. Again, tied at 2 games apiece. Colorado won the opening game in game number 4. Dallas winning the 2 games in between. The Stars back on home ice in Big D, Vecchio, but a slight underdog tonight. Does that line make sense to you?
It does. The Avs look so good. Dallas, especially Jake Ottinger, just kind of all over the place and not really what we should be expecting from that defense overall. I think there is just objective value on taking a home team with plus money. We can get at plus 116 on the money line. I think that's fine. It is 5.5 for the total. It's juiced to the over. So that is implying that we should be seeing some goals. So we see that goal early. And then that's the point. If the line jumps up to 6.5, I'd be willing to take under 6.5, even if it is with juice, minus 130, minus 140, whatever it might be. Yeah. I see this game ending, 3-2, 4-2. So I don't want to play the 4-2. That's what I'm expecting the final score to be. I don't want to play that with 5.5. I'd rather go under 6.5 with juice again if we do get that line.
The Avs had a 7-1 number to win Lord Stanley's Cup, shortest price of any team right now from the Western Conference. Road favorite in Game 5 tonight, series tied at 2-2. A Game 4 tonight as well in the Sunshine State Showdown. Of course, Vecchio, the reigning Stanley Cup champs, that's second best price of plus 650. But they're not the team with the advantage in their opening round series against their in-state foes. The Lightning winning in Game number 3 in Sunrise had that 2-1 series lead. The Bolts, though, a road underdog tonight in Game 4. Will Florida equalize in this opening round set?
I mean, I don't know who's going to win, but this game's all about the under. We've seen this kind of back and forth, a ton of goals, no goals, a ton of goals. Game 4 sets up to have very, very low scoring. And when we look at some of the advanced numbers, we are seeing the Lightning, at least in Game 2, we saw them have some really solid high danger chances, which come close to net inside the slot. They weren't converting them. What do you know, in Game 3, they score a ton of goals. So I expect that inverse to happen, where they're not going to have the chances and they're not going to be scoring a ton of goals because Florida and Paul Maurice, as the head coach, always make those game-to-game adjustments. So I don't know who wins. I think it's largely a coin flip. Minus 142 is somewhat accurate in the price. I would put it at minus 125, but under 5.5 is the clear play for this matchup.
It is as well, Vecchio. Interesting to see the Bolts having a 2-1 series lead. Pretty close split here in terms of those money line prices for game number 4. But the Lightning, not one of those 10 best prices to win the Stanley Cup at this moment. Not on that board. despite the fact the team they had the series lead over the reigning champs, the Florida Panthers, at plus 650. Tom Vecchio, as always, your time is the best time. Great prop perspective on this Monday. That does it for us on this Monday on the early line as well. Talk to you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern, here on the Grid.